So for the first question, they want you to do transformations based on log base 4x. Okay, so vertical translation, 7 units up, plus 7. Reflecting over the x, let me start with, if this is f of x, I need to make sure I write g of x, h of x, whatever. So reflecting over the x-axis really means it's with the y. Vertical compression by a factor of 1/3, so vertical is a straight shooter. And then a horizontal translation, 1 unit right. Right really means left. Okay. Now, oopsies, here I am doing that. Okay, do-over, sorry. So it should be g of x equals negative 1/3 log base 4 x minus 1 plus 7. Sorry about that. So there's my reflection. There's my vertical compression and my vertical translation. And then there's my horizontal translation, 1 unit right. Okay? All right. What I'm asking you to do is write this in a multitude of ways. So the first way I can write it is like this. X minus, I know this is x minus 5 times x minus 5. So that's, I'm going to rewrite that. Okay, that's one way. Another way lends itself to simplifying, which would be log 3 x minus 5. Okay. I want you to think about, I could actually write this as log 3 x squared minus 10x plus 25 squared minus log 3 x minus 5 cubed. Let me explain why I did that. So I know that my answer simplifies to this. So if I have one of these, it gives me 2x minus 5s. So let me kind of show that. So if I have x minus 5, x minus 5. But if it's x minus 5 squared, I really have 4 of them on top. And then it's telling me I'm dividing by 3 of them. 1, 2, 3, boom, boom, boom. It simplifies to x minus 5. So that's one way to go. Another way I could do it is I could write, let's see, 1/3 log 3 x minus 5 cubed. And let me show what I mean by that. Remember when you have a little, it turns big? So if I have a big, it could also turn little. So I could show that 2 different ways. So I could do, given this, I can make this little big, and then that's gone, and I'm left with log 3x minus 5. I could instead make the big little, and then it simplifies to the same answer. So you just want to make sure you're showing a multitude of ways of doing this, okay? All right, next one. They want you to create a function using f of x. Your a represents what you start with, your principal. So that's 50. And all I have to do now is decide if it's growth or decay. Well, I notice the numbers are getting smaller, so that means it's decay. So it's less than 100%. So I'm going to go in my calculator. I'm going to take this number divided by this number. Oops. And that gives me 0.86. And that means it is decaying by 14%. So what that means is I should be able to do 43 times 0.86, and it'll give me the next one. So let's see, times 43 is 3698. So I know it's a decay. Now some of you go, well, how do I remember if it's this divided by this or this divided by this? If I went 50 divided by 43, that would be over 100%. That means it's a growth of 16%. But we see the numbers are getting smaller, so that's not the right answer. So instead of memorizing it, just understand it. Okay? Let's go to the next one. They want to know 3 examples of exponential decay and 3 examples of growth. So let's do 3 examples of growth, which I think you're knowing that it's going to be multiple choice. Okay? So I could do y equals negative 3 to the x. And I want to show that one because the negative doesn't imply anything. That represents an imaginary negative 1. So that would be, in a sense, a negative start, but then you have growth. But I could do the same thing by doing this. 1/2 to the x, and there's decay. Another example would be y equals, 4/3 to the x. That's growth because it's greater than 1. But if I have y equals 3/4 to the x, it's now decay. I could also have a growth where I go y equals 1/7, 5 to the x. Remember, the 1/7 represents your start. It doesn't affect your growth. This represents your growth. So the growth is based on the base, the base, the base. The decay is based on the base and the base, and as long as it's less than 1. Okay? All right. Let's go to the next one. This one is a little bit more difficult, so I want to go a little bit more slowly with it. What it's saying is take this value, put it in for x, and then take this value, and that represents your f of x, because it says f of x equals. So I want you to be clear what I want when I see your work. So I'm going to go log 3, my x is 1/3, equals negative 1. I'm proving whether or not that's a true statement. So I'll change the base. 1 times negative 1 equals negative 1. It does. Boom. It's true. Let's try the next one. Log 381 equals 4. Log 3 to the 4th equals 4. 1 times 4 equals 4. It does. True. Let's do the next one. I probably didn't give you very much space. Sorry about that. Let's go. So I'm going to go log 3 1/27 equals negative 3. Log 3. Remember, if it's a fraction, it's going to be negative. And I can see that it's true just because I'm running out of space. And we know that if this one's true, this one has to be false. So I can just show that. Okay. All right, let's get into one of the many word problems that you're going to see on this test. Okay, so let's see. It has an initial population of 10,000. And it's at a rate of 12%. And it decays by 12%. So in a sense, you're going 1 minus 0.12, or 100 minus 12, and that's 88, okay? So that means that's going to be 0.88. And they're trying to figure out how long it takes, so that means you're trying to find t. And they want to know how long is it going to take for it to cut in half. So if it started at 10,000, it will be in half, will be 5,000. And that's my setup. To solve, I divide by 10,000. I get 1/2. Now, by the way, if some of you just see that in the beginning, that's fine. If some of you want to write this as 0.5 equals 0.88t, it doesn't matter. You get the same answer. Either way, next step, log it. So I end up with, let me put this over here, log 5 equals t, because the little turns big, log 0.88. Now, if I'm going to solve for t, I've got to divide by log of 0.88. And I pick up my calculator. Make sure you know how to use your calculator. Log of 5, you have to end the parentheses, and then divide it by log of 0.88. Don't forget the decimal. Wait a minute. I must have done something wrong. Hold on. Let's do it again. Let me pause it really quick. So I bet some of you saw my mistake. Now, how did I know that it was wrong? Because that's negative, and time can't be negative. So, as some of you probably already predicted, my issue is that it was 0.5, not 5. So don't just be careful, and hopefully when those kind of mistakes happen, they're pretty obvious. So log of 0.5 divided by log of 0.88, and now we're back to 542. Okay? But if I'm going to talk in terms of years, well, it does say how long. It doesn't say about how long. So actually on this one, that's my answer, because it says how long. I want to be clear again. If it said about how long, then you would say about 6 years. Okay? So notice the difference.